Hello and welcome to the Working Tools Masonic Podcast, where today we will be talking with Most Worshipful Brother Chris Coffman, Grand Master of Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our opinions and thoughts are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions, either here on YouTube or on our Facebook page. We'd also appreciate a thumbs up and especially any comments on our videos.
Thank you for joining us on the Working Tools Masonic Podcast. I'm Matt Appel, a Mason here in Washington, and I'm joined by very worshipful brother David Colbeth, who's also here in Washington, and worshipful brother Stephen Chung, who is a Freemason in the Grand Lodge of British Columbia in the Yukon. And today we have with us our very special, our most special, if you will, guest, Most Worshipful Brother Chris Coffman, who's the Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. Most worshipful sir, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. Fresh off of an installation and everything.
Yeah,
just get to
days ago.
Yeah, and so you're just kicking things off.
That's right.
So
Yeah, we're still no meetings, so it's been a little different than what we originally planned, but we're working on it.
yeah, I imagine there haven't been a whole lot of Grand Masters that 2 days after their installation said, "Now nobody meet." That's a circumstances.
I said it about 40 minutes after I got installed.
That's right. Yep, during the ceremony.
Yeah. So I guess that leads us right into COVID affecting Freemasonry and your jurisdiction for the year. And have you had any time to consider the things that you can try to achieve, maybe with the assistance of Zoom and other technology in your year?
Well, no, we have been, and many lodges have been doing this, a lot of training podcasts like this, informal meetings using Zoom. I use it all the time for committee meetings and stuff. And a lot of lodges, districts are doing that. I find it very useful. We are contemplating how to we had a very long, about 2-hour Zoom meeting. In fact, it's on this. I started to watch it over again and put it away. But I know about 2 hours of just getting input from the brothers as to how and when we should be getting back together and start actually having meetings. I'm still contemplating what was said and working with jurisprudence and the rest of the XCOM as to when we can actually have in-person meetings again. And we're also talking about, whether we can have a Zoom-type meeting so elections and installations can happen. If we don't, the officers just continue anyway. They don't have to, under the code, install their officers until sometime in mid-January. So, some lodges really like to do it right now, others don't. But we're working with the process of Zoom and other platforms. I don't want to be necessarily endorsing just one platform. There's GoToMeeting, there's Skype, there are other platforms that can be used. Zoom seems to work fairly well for most people, but I'm not in the business of selling Zoom stock, so.
Yeah, well, not a bad idea. They've been doing well lately, eh?
But lodges can do a lot of stuff. I mean, you can hold your education. We've already given the executive committees for each lodge the ability to pay all their bills. You can get together and just have fellowship using these electronic platforms. I'm not going to allow voting on petitioners and that kind of stuff where there's that sanctity of that black cube is very important, and we're not going to do that over Zoom. And we can't do degrees.
Right.
So I've been asked about, well, can we make somebody proficient on their first degree? I said, well, yeah, you can have a committee to do that, and when you can meet again, you can report on it. But you can't do the second degree anyway, so.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So just to clarify for our multitude of listeners, the current state of the most recent edict that was issued in the current state of affairs here in Washington is that essentially there are no in-person Masonic events. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that includes whatever social get-togethers and lodge meetings and et cetera.
Right.
Except for the strawberry feed. Sorry, Grandmaster. No.
I apologize for that.
No, that was our fault as much, but it's inside joke, Steve. But and then that reflects also any meeting that a Mason might have to attend, right?
Correct. So if you have a Rainbow meeting and they require a Mason there, Rainbow's not going to meet. DMLA, Joby's, same type of stuff. The other Amaranth, OES, I don't know what their roles are, but I believe they require Mason. They're not meeting. And I reached out, by the way, to all those organizations before I issued that edict back on the 13th. And the only ones to got back with me were DMLA and Rainbow. The others, I told them what I was planning on doing, but they didn't even contact me. So I assume they're okay with it.
Or they haven't met to discuss it.
Well, I reached out to their heads, Worthy Grand Matron or the Royal Grand Matron or whatever they're called. We have a distribution list, and so I just sent it out to everybody.
So, all that being said, are there any particular goals that Grand Lodge in the line had? Like, is there anything that there is for you guys that you can still work on? And
well, yeah, there are. One of the things, I said we weren't going to come up with any brand new programs per se this year, just because I think we have enough of them. We just have to start using them. We've got a 6-step process that we stole from BC. Thank you.
it's great. We love it.
Yeah, and it's great as long as lodges use it. We have been encouraging long-range planning. As long as lodges use it, it works really good. If you don't use it, it's not going to help you any. So, we have these various programs out there, and I just want people to start using them. I did charge our long-range planning committee with assisting lodges in creating their own. I know they had a meeting 2 weeks ago, or was it just a week ago?
Last week, Grandmaster.
It was just last week. So we were at that one, and I'm sure they're working on somehow getting that message out. We have our charity work too that we're all still working on. But those primary things, education, using the things we have, and if they can work on a long-range plan while they can't meet, the executive committee can work on it. They can share it over this kind of platform with their members and develop that long-range plan now so that when they can meet, they're ready to hit the road running.
Yeah, and like our what do you call it? Mentorship committee. They're still working with our candidates and keeping them interested and active in discussion and working on their proficiency work, so that when they do, when we are able to get back together. Actually here in BC, we have just received some socially distant protocols that if we can meet them, we can have a meeting. However, in that, it also says that we can't have any visitors unless specifically invited by the 3 principal officers. We can't do any degree work, right? So if we can't confer any degrees, we can't pass anybody on, right? And we can't have a festive board, right? And now our lodge, we already have in our bylaws that if the bills are in the budget, they're automatically to get paid, so we don't have to deal with that stuff. So what's the purpose of meeting if we can't do any of those things that we get together to do, right?
Exactly.
You know?
That's why, I'm not in a big rush to authorize in-person meetings again. As I said during our Zoom meeting we had earlier, the health and welfare of our members is number one priority. I worry a little bit about, fiscal liability and public perception, those things, but the biggest thing is the welfare and safety of our members. And until we can make sure the members are safe, and our average age is 68 years old.
That's right.
And so we're in the, that high risk area.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of I really appreciated that you had that meeting the other day with the 2-hour meeting. There was lots of participation.
Yeah.
But I got a kick out of guys that kept trying to figure out an angle so that we could meet and somehow do something. I thought, and you just kept going back to, for what? For what? Well, just like you're saying, Steve,
For what?
we can get together maybe, and we can maybe stay 6 feet apart, but for what?
Right.
I mean, you can't do a degree.
The only thing I did think that one of the guys made sense was that they said that for their lodge, they had a goal of enhancing their ritual and more specifically their funeral programs, which is unfortunate, but something we all should be working on and have ready. And I thought that was an interesting angle. That was probably the only angle that maybe could have been a valid consideration, that, the principal officers and their stations and, you can all stay 6 feet apart for the general ritual.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And I am working on possibilities. I just can't say what they are at this point.
No, sure. And you have to stay within the county or the state and county health department lines. I imagine, Steve, is your Grand Lodge able to do that because your health department is allowing that?
Yeah, they're allowing up to 50, right?
Oh.
But, the first thing I really got to say is, my wife knew somebody in New Zealand when this started, and they got told they had to have, their wedding numbers had to be cut to 100, and they had like 250 or something like that. So they cut that number right down to 100, right? And just under 100 so they could have their wedding. And they lost all the matriarchs of the family, 50 people gone to COVID.
Oh my God.
And so really, was it worth having that meeting?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I was talking with we were at a friend's house yesterday, and just a small group, 3 families, and guy didn't know, and he was saying, we're talking about the kids coming back to school, and he was saying, well, why not just let the kids come back? It's no big deal, and the kids aren't susceptible like that. And I don't, you don't want to argue with somebody you're meeting just for the first time, and have a controversy with a house. And so, but in my mind, I'm thinking it's not really about the kids; it's about the adults and the grandparents and grandmas and great uncles and folks like, people that have a pacemaker.
Yeah. To go back to what you were saying, Most Worshipful, about the long range planning. If the Grand Lodge can do long range planning during this, why can't the lodges? And if I've said before on this platform that if I go back to, let's say we start meeting again in whenever, October, and I go back to lodge and it's the same meeting that we would have had in January, I'm going to be really disappointed. There's a chance here to rethink some things that we do or that we don't do, and figure out a better way to do it, or maybe we don't need to do this, or maybe we do need to do that. And there's I hate this phrase, but taking advantage of a crisis kind of thing. We've got the crisis. We've got this chance to reform ourselves, and if we don't, like I said, I'll be very disappointed.
Well, yeah, and I agree. There are certain things we do when we have a stated meeting. I mean, we read our minutes just because, it's stuff that we have to do. Pay our bills. We do our ritualistic opening. Pay our bills, read the minutes. It's the rest of that meeting. Do you have some education? You have something for people to participate in. And if all you do is you come in, you read the minutes, pay the bills, do some introductions, and then close, nobody's going to want. Yeah, I don't want to go. But if you get something of interest in there, that makes it a whole lot better. I'm reminded of one that I went to. And I thought this was real. What's of interest to each lodge depends upon the lodge, and they've got to figure that out. But I went and visited a lodge, just dropped in on them, and they had a presentation that went on for about 45 minutes on why it is essential that we have a Grand Lodge and a Grand Master in the case of a zombie apocalypse. And they had all their reasons, good, strong leadership, and you need, but it was hilarious and great fun, 45 minutes of it. I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad you're prepared now, so you can.
Yeah, I know what I need to do in that case. Hoping it doesn't come about, but who knows? I mean,
you mentioned visiting lodges, and you dropped in. I know you had a goal of visiting all the lodges, and the lodge count varies from somewhere between 170 and 165, or somewhere.
59 right now.
How many?
159.
159. And so, were you able to achieve your goal of visiting all the lodges?
No. Not since, and the goal was to do it from the time after I got elected junior. I have 20 left. And depending upon when we get back to meeting, I will find a way to get that. Some of the problem you run into with, and I had it all scheduled out, then the COVID hit and the accident hit. I missed several right following that. But, scheduling is just a pain. You got lodge. You know how many lodges meet on the second and third Wednesdays? A lot of them.
I was just talking to that about somebody. So, a great time to have our meeting would be like the fourth Thursday, because every lodge meets the first, second, or third week.
Yeah. Oh, no, the fourth Thursday is the more light night on Zoom, man.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but trying to figure that schedule, that travel, and especially when several of those lodges over in Eastern Washington, I got over the passes, so I don't want to do that in January and February, where it's not all that much fun. I mean, I could fly to Spokane, and I got people there would pick me up and get me to the lodge meetings, but you're going to. And I've been there, so I'm just going to pick on Aurora Lodge, which meets in lovely downtown Oroville. I'm sure you all know where Oroville is.
You betcha.
Yeah. It's just south of D.C. I mean, I
know.
Yeah,
I've been there.
He's the only one that knows.
I visited that lodge.
It's great. I mean, there are people there, but it's if you take the summit of the Cascades and the eastern border, divide it in half along the Canadian border, you're right there. There's nothing else around there, but you're right there. But they're great brothers up there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there, but you pick locations like that, it's not easy to get to.
That's impressive. 140 some lodges. Do you know of anybody else that's achieved that, been able to get to all of them?
I understand that Bruce Vesper came very close. He had a few more than I did. Mendoza came close, but he was able to work his work travel in with lodge visits too, so he was able to do.
I don't think Jim sleeps.
He's got too much energy.
He's been a guest on our show a few times as well.
And he's hosting several too.
He's been doing an amazing job. Our district, he tried to wrangle me in, and I said, I'm kind of busy with other things, this show and other things. And I said, if you could take it, and boy, he just has really done a great job. I feel guilty and jealous that he's gotten some amazing guests on more than we have. Matter of fact, tomorrow night, which will be 3 weeks ago from this airing, he's got Moses Gomez coming on, and I think we need to get Moses on our show as soon as possible. He's wonderful.
We have the best guest here. Witness the guest we have this evening. Let's not
Yes, Matt has been in charge of our guest host.
No, I'm just trying to say let's not denigrate the Grandmaster.
I know where you guys live. But I know you're Grandmaster, so
yeah.
But do the best you can. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
If I can't get to every lodge for whatever reason, I'll apologize and try to get there next year sometime.
It'll give you something to do in your past year, right?
Well, one thing I went back to this year, and I've told Cameron, next year I will not take any position on the Grand Lodge team.
Well, don't you get one by osmosis?
What?
Don't you get one by osmosis?
Yeah, I'm technically on the team just by being past Grandmaster, but I'm not going to be on a committee. I'm not going to be a special deputy for anything. I'm doing nothing, and I'm not taking the lead of any other organization. I promised Lynn that I would not do that when I got done, so I won't. But I'm going to take the year off and just kind of relax. And if there are some lodges that I missed, I may well try to, with Cameron's permission, go visit them. But otherwise, I'll stay home and go to my own lodges.
Well, I sure hope you get the chance to finish that and see them all and visit them all, because visiting to me, that anything that involves that's a worthy goal, man.
Yeah. No, I didn't do it to say, well, God, I'm the first Grand Master to have visited all the one. No, I didn't do it for that reason. I did it to find out what people wanted. And that's sort of why there's no new program. They wanted better programs. Well, we have the programs, just have to use them. Better communication. And as I said in my address following installation, we have a lot of good communication methods. And then I tell people about them, and then they say, "Oh yeah, I know about those. We don't use those though, but you need to communicate better."
It did make sense to me. You listed all the different communication methods, and I thought we're hitting them all. The only thing I think we could improve on possibly is more the one-to-one communication. Call a guy up and remind him, or call a guy up and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
We can do a whole lot more of that. All of us can.
Most definitely.
No, I'm not calling all 9,000 members of the Grand Lodge during this year. I don't have time. But that one-to-one is important. Yeah, and it doesn't take that much to pick up the phone and call someone.
Matt, is that a landline?
Yes, no.
No, Matt picked up a phone. It's a landline.
It's a landline.
You still have one of those, Matt?
I do. Gold.
Oh, that's right. You have young kids at home still.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't want to give them all cell phones yet.
Although I still use my old landline number is my Safeway card number.
Exactly.
For Best Buy and a few other places, because I haven't gotten around to try to change them.
Yeah, for sure.
And then 3 months later, they reissue your number out to somebody else, and that person goes to Safeway, uses all your points to go and buy something.
Oh well, so it hasn't caused me much difficulty. So, and if somebody does, I don't use their gas anymore because I bought a new car, so I don't trust their gas on it. So.
We've just got a few minutes left on this segment. I really would love to learn more about your programs and about maybe how you became a Mason and all that stuff. And if you're up for a second segment, I did want to ask. We probably could squeeze in a few minutes. Your background, I think, is your PIN, if I'm not mistaken. And so, if you want to, are you able to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. It's remember the past, visualize the future. It just seemed very appropriate that we would have vision of some type in a year that starts in 2020. And my wife was an optician. So, she made glasses for people. So we had to have that in there. And, remembering the past, I think, is very important too, but it's beyond just, the George Washingtons and, Harry Trumans and that kind of stuff. It's the Clara Bartons. I think that was her last name. Back in 1932, when she died, she donated $5,000 to the Sonic Home Fund. We're still using that $5,000, because it's still there. It was in an endowment. It's there making money for us, and still supporting our charities and supporting Grand Lodge. So remembering what we've done in the past is very important. But we also have to visualize what we want in the future. That's sort of the long-range planning stuff. The all-seeing eye is just, again, it's vision. I had no choice. I had to put that on there. And I wanted to, it's very simple. And the bottom part just says Washington 2020-21.
Is there particular significance to the dual square and compasses?
No, that just worked out that the one's on one side and one's
Just
on
the
the
balance, okay.
other. Lynn was very much it has to be even. I put something on the wall, hang a picture. It had to be in the middle of the wall. Or if we had two of them, they had to be perfectly aligned. So we had to put two of them on. No, it's seemed like a very easy way to do what we wanted to say.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty cool pin. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
As they say, if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat it. Is that right, too?
Yeah. Repeat.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Well, with that note,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the top hour is getting late, so we're going to wrap up our first conversation with Most Worshipful Brother Chris Coffman, the Grand Master of Washington, and I think we persuaded him to come back for episode number 2. So hopefully next week he will be back on episode number 2. So, Most Worshipful Sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.